Materialism is not a particularly aspirational quality, but our possessions are often reflective of our tastes and priorities and, as a result, tell a story about us, consciously or not. This is a series about those things that we have, that we care about, that help us be who we are or want to be. This is Conspicuous Consumption. Around a year or so ago, I set out on a quest to find a pair of white sneakers. Not just any pair, of course, but one that is pretty neutral and relatively uncomplicated so they can be dressed up a bit. They should also be reasonably comfortable, and not something that everybody else is wearing, and ideally something that I don't already have. I don't love too much redundancy, if that makes sense. Surely this leaves a bunch of options, right? It's true, but let's complicate things further. I want them to feel special without being precious, unique but not so expensive that I'm afraid to ever wear them. And yes, I am very normal. So where do we start a journey like this? For me, it's the place where I'm most familiar, Nike. There's the Dunk, which is super versatile and comes in a million colors, but the shape isn't really what I'm looking for here, and even if it was, Dunks are a little passé and I already have too many, so I'd rather look elsewhere. Same goes for the Blazer, plus I don't find them to be very comfortable. I've tried a couple different Nike SB options, and while the Nyjah 3 quickly became my default summer shoe, it's definitely better with shorts. The Vertebrae is interesting, but maybe has too much going on, and I really wanted to like the PS8 from last year, but the shape is so weird on foot that I couldn't see wearing it with really anything. And every so often, I think about the off-white Nike Kiger or Waffle Racer because I'm obsessed with those stupid spiky things, before I remember that they're basically the opposite of what I'm looking for. So maybe Adidas is the way to go. Something like a Samba or Gazelle is great in theory, but everybody has white Sambas and there really are no Gazelle colorways that quite fit the bill. Less prominent branding would also be nice, and while we're at it, little to no black accents. I have a mental block with trying to pair white and black with clothing that doesn't also have black somewhere in it, which really limits potential outfits. Like I said, very normal. This means eliminating some other cool options like the Predator Freestyle, Quig Samba, and Handball Special, aside from a recent collaboration with Invincible, a Taiwanese retailer. These are exceptional, but unfortunately the lack of a US launch and otherwise kind of opaque release means that they're hard to find for a reasonable price. There is one other Adidas shoe that does kind of fit the bill pretty well, and that's the BW Army, the Adidas version of the German Army Trainer, a shoe worn by, you guessed it, the German Army, or Bundeswehr. Aside from the Adidas logo on the midsole, there's very little to identify these as Adidas at all, which I like. But none of the colorways are perfect, and the best ones have been out of production for several years, so anything I'd want is a little harder to find. On the other hand, there are a bunch of GAT lookalikes that have materialized over the years, which makes them easy to buy elsewhere if you don't care about the brand. But on the other hand, I do care about the brand, and since my life is perpetually ruined by me knowing things, the only version of these I'm really interested in is the Maison Margiela replica, which costs a bad amount of money that I simply cannot allocate to one pair of sneakers. I also really like P448's take on this style, but they don't have a good neutral colorway or a price that I'm comfortable with either. So where does that leave us? I've only mentioned like 2 brands, but truthfully that's kind of where my zone of knowledge starts to taper off. Also New Balance, but retro shoes from them are generally very running focused, which of course they are, but it's not what I'm looking for. I guess there'd be Reebok or Converse or Puma or Vans, but I just don't know enough about them to have a sense of what's good or not, and who am I kidding, I already bought those Invincible Handball Specials right after I finished the outline for this video. I did say they're hard to find for a reasonable price, but not impossible. So here they are, and they're really good. They look great, the materials are incredible, and the quest is complete. Anyway, thanks for checking this out. I didn't want to make another thing about shoes this soon, so sorry for that, but sometimes you just gotta work with what you got, like how normal and also very cool I am. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, or whatever, and if you have any suggestions for future stuff to talk about, let me know. Talk to you later.